In the previous episode, Daryl and Carol found Ash. Meanwhile, after Laurent and Cadron escaped the base, they ran into Daryl at an underground bar. Now, Daryl finally has a chance to go home, but he's missing fuel for the plane. Anna steps up once again, offering her help unconditionally. Anna isn't exactly a good person, but maybe she sees a sliver of innocence in Laurent, a purity that stirs something in her. With surprising generosity, she orders her men to load ethanol for Daryl.
Not sure we have enough to just give it away.
I'm sorry. It sounded like you were trying to express an opinion. Didn't think so. Faster?
The man lowered his head, silently enduring her orders, but it seemed he and another man were secretly conspiring about something. Before long, they begin preparing the fuel, but no one notices when one of the men quietly slips out of the bar. Meanwhile, upstairs, Daryl is trying to convince Laurent to return to America with him. He promises Laurent that once they're there, he'll make new friends and start over, but for some reason, Laurent is stubbornly refusing. Daryl couldn't comprehend Laurent's obstinacy, and it made him a bit angry.
Why?
I don't want to.
Explain it to me.
I just can't.
Why not?
Because I don't want you to die.
Finally, Laurent confesses the truth. He believes the nun Sylvie, Isabel, died because of him. Everyone he loves and everyone who loves him seems doomed to a tragic fate. Daryl shakes his head, just about to offer words of comfort, when a commotion erupts downstairs. Anna strode upstairs, dragging a dancer along with her. She orders two other performers to buy them some time. It turns out the man who left earlier wasn't happy with Anna's decisions. He secretly tipped off Laurent. Thankfully, one of the young workers loading the fuel is loyal. He warns Cadron it's time to leave and points out a hidden passage behind the liquor cabinet.
Come on, go.
Just as Daryl and the others were moving towards the inside of the house, they were seen by Jacinta, who had turned her head.
Il est là.
By the time Laurent and his men storm upstairs, they find only Anna sitting calmly on the couch. It's clear she's playing against them. As a leader, Laurent lacks the ruthlessness to truly dominate. If it were Janet in his place, this bar would already have a new owner. Just then, Jacinta notices a breeze around the nearby lamp. A concealed passage lies behind a painting, clearly the route Daryl and the others used to escape. Without hesitation, Laurent leads his men into the passage. This basement was designed for emergencies and is rarely used. Daryl and Laurent haven't gone far when they bump into Cadron. After the three reunited, they faced another challenge. They were unfamiliar with the area, and the sound of pursuing footsteps was quickly closing in behind them. Daryl quickly decides to split up. He plans to use the terrain to take out Laurent's men one by one. After running for a bit, Daryl instructs Laurent to hide in a nearby alcove and wait for him. He warns Laurent to stay put, as the upcoming fight will leave him no time to watch over him.
Yeah, turn it up. We're gonna get through this, okay?
The pursuers flood into the basement, armed with guns, vowing not to fail this time. Laurent surveys the floor, noticing footprints leading to two different paths. He orders Jacinta to take a squad left, while he and the rest head right. From this point on, their fate is sealed. Laurent, at the end of the day, is a soft-hearted, indecisive martial artist. His men are far from elite soldiers, and now they face two seasoned warriors. The lack of professionalism becomes apparent quickly. Jacinta's squad panics at the slightest noise. After some effort, they regroup and resume their search. One of the soldiers fumbles through the darkness, his nerves on edge, when suddenly Jacinta heard the commotion and rushed over with two subordinates, but she quickly made yet another mistake. She signaled for her two subordinates to split up and flank the target, while she crept along the wall to investigate. It was obvious she was nothing more than a paper strategist, a devout believer who had been lucky enough to stumble into a position of power. As expected, the sound of gunfire soon echoed through the passage. The female subordinate who had gone to flank the target lay lifeless on the ground. The remaining man, an older subordinate, was gripped with fear, terrified that he might meet the same fate. Cadron emerged with a fierce expression. With only Jacinta left, he no longer felt the need to stay hidden. Jacinta was visibly afraid. She hadn't brought a gun. After all, She was used to relying on others to do the dirty work, but now, she had no choice but to feign fearlessness. Laurent was not only tall and strong but also highly skilled in combat. Within a few moves, he had Jacinta by the throat, but Laurent never expected that Jacinta had a dagger hidden at her waist. Jacinta felt a surge of triumph. She had won, but... Elsewhere, Laurent had similarly ordered his men to split up and search. As predicted, when Laurent followed the sound of a scuffle, he found several of his subordinates convulsing on the ground. At that moment, Daryl stepped out from the shadows, a knife in his left hand and a flail in his right. A brutal melee was about to begin. Daryl took a hit from Laurent's staff, and the pain was immediate and sharp. Laurent practiced Aikido, also known as the Way of Harmony, a discipline sharing roots with Morgan's staff techniques. His combat skills far exceeded Daryl's expectations. Laurent's relentless strikes left Daryl in agony. Unable to recover, he could only crawl helplessly on the ground, but Daryl had been through far too much in the post-apocalyptic world. To him, the process didn't matter, only the outcome did. He grabbed a skull from the ground, mustering all his strength to swing it and smash it against Laurent's head. And just like that, another great leader fell, following in Janet's footsteps. Ironically, Laurent had founded the Union of Hope with good intentions, but under Jacinta's manipulation, he had lost his way. Daryl soon found Laurent, and Laurent joined them shortly after. The three let out a collective sigh of relief. Everyone was safe, and the battle had been a resounding victory. However, Laurent ultimately showed mercy. Jacinta was still alive. Despite Daryl and Laurent teaming up to take down Laurent, their relationship remained complex. They might never be friends, but for now, they were no longer enemies. Anna, who had played a crucial role in helping them, was also there. She bid farewell to Laurent, telling him her territory would always welcome him. Then, with her men, she left. The ordeal was over at last. Nothing stood in the way of Daryl's return to America. Yet Laurent, as stubborn as ever, insisted on staying behind. Daryl spoke to him patiently. "You may be a kid now, but one day, you'll grow into a man who can stand on his own and face any challenge. You have to let go of the things that scare you and face them head on. Isabel wanted you to go to America, and I want that for you too."
Okay.
Good. Go get your shit. Let's go.
Laurent was silent for 2 seconds before finally agreeing. Then they drove to the racetrack. With the fuel now secured, they would soon board a plane to leave France. Laurent, who had figured everything out on the way, also relaxed. He began to look forward to his new life in America. Meanwhile, Daryl was distracted. Daryl was on his way back with the fuel, but she still hadn't told Ash the truth. At this time, Ash's body recovered a little and he slowly walked out. Ash noticed something off about Carol's expression. At first, he thought she had found her daughter, but then he realized the heartbreaking truth: they were separated forever. Carol sighed deeply. She knew there was no avoiding it. She decided it was time to come clean.
I'm sorry.
For what?
All of it?
How this trip? Help me.
I helped you?
Get past the guilt I've been carrying about Abby. Coming here with you just forced me to overcome it. To live again. You did that for me, Carol.
Carol froze, still lacking the courage to reveal the truth. She could not bear to see Ash devastated again.
I'm really sorry I didn't have better for you.
With the burden weighing heavily on her mind, Carol couldn't sit still. She busied herself, scrubbing the plane over and over again. Ash saw that Carol was troubled. Thinking she was still grieving for her daughter, he walked over to console her. Carol couldn't keep it hidden any longer. She blurted out, "Thank you for helping me so much. I'm grateful this journey has been meaningful to you. But the truth is, I lied. I didn't come here to find Sophia at all, but to find that Daryl you met."
What are you saying?
Sophia died 12 years ago.
No, you said that.
No, I know what I said. It's not like that.
What's it like then?
Daryl explained, "Sophia died a long time ago. I've just never been able to forgive myself, so I pretended she was still alive. Lately, these illusions have been getting worse," she continued. When I met you, I felt like you could understand me. That's why I said those things about looking for someone to gain your sympathy and convince you to help me." It finally dawned on Ash. Everything had been a lie. What stung even more was the nature of the lie. Carol hadn't just deceived him, she had used the memory of her dead daughter to do it. What kind of person could do such a thing? As a father who had lost his own son, Ash had often felt a deep connection to Carol. He truly believed she understood his pain. That belief was what had driven him to abandon everything and risk this journey with her. But now, it all felt meaningless, almost laughable. Ash was truly too kind. So kind that even someone as cunning as Carol feared causing him harm. Half an hour later, Daryl returned, with Laurent practically bouncing with excitement. It was his first time seeing a plane in real life, something he'd only read about in books. Hearing the commotion, Carol came out and was surprised to see Daryl had brought the boy back with him. It seemed Daryl just couldn't let go of the kid. Carol gave a knowing smile. Since their earlier conversation, Ash had stormed off in anger, but just as Daryl arrived, Ash returned as well. Still furious, Ash ignored Daryl's greeting, yet his attention was quickly caught by Laurent, who was perched on the plane. Ash saw Laurent and obviously thought of his dead son. Ash's anger had long since subsided, but the sudden addition of another person left him in a difficult spot. The plane could only seat 3 people, which meant they couldn't all leave together. The situation became unexpectedly tricky, forcing them to reconsider their plans. An hour later, Daryl took Laurent outside for a walk. He had found an old guitar in an underground garage and intended to give it to the boy as a gift. Laurent, perceptive as always, guessed that Daryl didn't plan to leave with him.
You're not coming, are you?
Somebody has to stay behind. Makes sense that it's me.
Laurent's mood instantly dropped. There was no point in arguing. Laurent knew Daryl wouldn't change his mind. Still, he worried about Daryl staying behind alone. Daryl quickly reassured Laurent, promising that they would see each other again. Neither knew when that reunion might be, and the thought made them both melancholic. Laurent strummed the guitar, humming a tune. Daryl quietly joined in, though his voice grew increasingly choked with emotion.
Always get what you want. Can't always get what you want. Try sometimes, just might find. Get what you need.
Meanwhile, Carol sought out Ash once more. She knew her actions were unforgivable, and with deep guilt, she said, "Let me stay, please. Take Daryl and Laurent back to America." Ash was conflicted. Although he was furious about the truth, he was nowhere near as cold and unfeeling as he seemed on the surface. Half an hour later, Ash closed his toolbox, preparing to head out for a while. Carol was not far away gathering supplies, but her eyes kept following Ash's movements. Laurent noticed Ash's simmering anger as well.
He's got a lot on his mind.
Because you lied to him.
Laurent had guessed the reason behind Ash's anger, but then he turned to Carol and said, "Actually, I'm grateful for this lie. Without it, Daryl and I would never have had the chance to come here."
You have a really special way of seeing things, don't you? You're gonna make a lot of friends at the Commonwealth.
Do you think Daryl will be able to make it back by himself?
Hearing Laurent say this, Carol looked back at him. It turned out that Daryl and she had the same thoughts. Elsewhere, Ash searched the underground garage for spare parts, with Daryl holding a flashlight to help.
What happened to his parents?
Laurent? He's an orphan.
Learning that Laurent was an orphan seemed to touch Ash's paternal instincts. Daryl seized the opportunity to explain on Carol's behalf. He told Ash, "Carol's been through hell. Sophia's death nearly destroyed her. I was there when it happened. There's nothing worse than witnessing the loss of a child firsthand." The mention of children softened Ash's heart, and the conversation shifted. He opened up to Daryl, and the two began to talk. It was hard to imagine how someone as kind as Ash had survived this long in such a brutal world. Unable to find the right part, Ash decided to check behind a metal gate, but his lack of caution almost cost him. As he took a few steps forward, Daryl yanked him back just in time to close the gate before a horde of zombies descended. Sometimes, recognition between men is as simple as that.
I guess I am kind of glad you're coming with us.
Daryl was momentarily stunned. He hadn't expected Ash's goodwill to come so easily. Will they be able to leave successfully? And who will ultimately stay behind? Let's look forward to the thrilling events of the next episode.